Five tips for you today on the Superpilotish channel. Welcome to the Superpilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today I'm going to be talking about five YouTube tips for the rusty pilot out there in my basement. I was. I always start off thought, I was thinking I got to stop doing that, but I don't know. Maybe that's my shtick. It's that time of year where people haven't really been flying all that much because the weather's statistically around where I am, Windsor, Ontario, and most of Canada, and most of the northern parts of the United States. Statistically, it's January and February it's the worst weather, so least amount of flying. It's statistically that's just the way it is. So there's probably a lot of people out there, a lot of pilots that haven't flown for it could be a couple months or even longer. And then I was also thinking some people might have made it their New Year's resolution. I'm going to get back into flying. I haven't done that in a few years. I really got to get out to the airport. So I was thinking, yeah, that's pretty timely. We'll do 5 tips for the rusty pilot here. Okay. And got my whiteboard out here, got my marker. I'm gonna go 5. They're all pretty important, but and an engine failure, that's not important. Well, there's I'll get to that anyway. So if you're rusty, the way that you remember things, like you if you do something over and over again, then you stop. There's going to be a few factors there that determine whether or not you're going to remember it or how much you're going to remember. So I guess I was thinking about this, and it's like, okay, I could come up with about 3 factors for that. So number 1 would be, how well did you know it in the first place? Were you a real expert? Like, say, someone for me that used to be a flight instructor for a full-time job. I mean, I did that for years. So it's for me to go even a year without flying, I've already got like a bunch of years behind me of experience and a few thousand hours in the airplane. So it's like, I wouldn't forget everything, but I would probably forget a few things, that's for sure. And then like I was saying there, I could probably go like a year, and I'd probably be pretty good. I haven't gone that far. I don't want to go that far. I like flying, so it's but now say you had your private pilot's license, you just got your license, and then you didn't fly for a year after. You would forget a lot of that. So you got to have the repetitions and the amount of knowledge base to draw upon. Bigger your knowledge base, the more experience you have, the longer you can go safely without being in the plane again. And then another one there is how familiar, I guess that'd be number 3, how familiar are you with the aircraft you're flying? Maybe you've got checked out in this one airplane and you flew it a few times, and then you went 2 years and you hop back in it. You'd be, what's this little switch do? What's this little thingamajiggy do? So like if you see cockpits of big jets, there's switches all over the place, and displays and instruments and circuit breakers and computers. Like, what is this stuff? So that's pretty complicated. So you would want to be really on top of that. So if you go out there and you checked out in a 737, just don't wait like 2 years and just hop in and go. Actually, no one would let you do that anyways. But okay, so let's do here. This is going to be focusing mostly on if you're a private pilot or we'll say like private pilot, or even a student. Maybe you're halfway through your training and you couldn't fly for a couple months. That happens all the time. So I would say engine failure, which sounds very traumatic, but it's a simulated engine failure. When you learn how to fly, a lot of your things that you learn are just like, what if? Okay, what if your engine's running rough? Okay, you don't fix it. What if it quits on you? You got to practice that. So, but when you're going to do like a simulated engine failure, or they call it a forced approach, because you're getting forced down on the ground. And so that would be uh, it would be your procedures that you need to know. Procedures. And there we go. Procedures. There's things that you have to memorize to do that. But a lot of times there's a checklist in the airplane, and you can reference that. But you probably the main stuff you should have that memorized, and then you can reference your checklist after to see if you forgot anything. So anything, if the maneuver is kind of complicated, that's where you might not forget the whole thing, but you'll forget part of it. So anyways, number 4 here. Okay, what's the other thing that gets rusty? Is your radio work here. So the way that you talk to people, the way you talk on your phone, the way that it's a little bit different than when you're talking on an aircraft radio. The aircraft radio is like, hey, how you doing? Oh yeah, it's me. Who are you? Da 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 da. It's a little bit more Roger Dodger than that, but that specific protocol of when do I say this? How do I say this? They say this back to me. What are they expecting to hear from me? The exact radio procedures that you have to do. I've seen that where it just gets rusty. You don't normally talk, I don't know, whatever, here to Windsor, here at the Windsor Airport, Windsor Tower, blah, 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 blah. And then, okay, what do I repeat? When do I put my call sign? Foxtrot, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, da, da, da. So all that stuff has to be done in the right order. And a good example of this, there was one guy, he hadn't flown in years and years and years, and he wanted me to go give him a check ride on a Cessna 172. Well, this guy was he was over 90 at the time, and he had a little picture in his wallet. Is like, hey, that's my Temco Swift. We still had a picture of him in like 1951 standing next to his airplane. I flew it out to Saskatchewan. It was like, oh, cool. And but this guy, he was a pretty accomplished pilot, but he when he learned how to fly, he was flying from uncontrolled airport to uncontrolled airport, and he never even flew a plane really with a radio in it before. So he didn't know the whole procedure of like, okay, you say this on the radio back and forth. And so it's like he was just terrible on the radio. I think it was because that one of the things is like he never really learned it that much in the first place, and then what little he did know, he forgot it all. So unfortunately, the old guy was a nice guy, but we couldn't quite get him safe to check out on the plane. And hey, Greg, I see you here in the chat, and I'll I'll get to any questions a little bit later at the end. So so this guy, your radio work here, the way that you can I'll get to how you can solve that when I get to the end. Okay, so we're gonna go for number 3. Now these are all things that I've seen personally, and with I don't know how many people, easily 100. I've flown with more than that, but as far as people getting rusty and getting back into it, probably 100, maybe a little more. So, and these are all common threads. Okay. So the next thing is, okay, number 3 is following the checklist. Some of the people that used to, are even newer students, not just the people that aren't used to following checklists. At any flight school, if you're going to rent their airplane, or just about every airplane has some sort of a checklist, even in the even though the owner of the aircraft might not have an actual little checklist written out or anything, but that all the procedures, the things that you're supposed to do, they are in the book, in the owner's manual, the POH as it's called. Pilot operating handbook. So there is a list there. There is a checklist there. Like as long as you do it, I guess you're okay. But you're going to forget things if you don't write it down. So okay, and a lot of these older guys, they're they never had checklists. They just hop in, fire up the plane, and go. And like that's like not that safe. That's why if you look at any of these airliner guys, they got books of checklists. Okay, what's a procedure for this? Oh, we got an engine running rough. Get out the checklist. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, check this fuel. Blah 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 blah. And yeah, so it's people get lazy on the checklist too. Now I've always been really well forgetful, so that's why I rely on the checklist. And plus, it's more work to try to memorize stuff. So I'm kind of lazy. So I just like, oh, that's a checklist thing. Pull it out, and I don't have to memorize it. So it's yeah, you got to follow those checklists, and they're there for a reason, so you don't forget anything important. And it could, it could make your flight a nice flight instead of a bad flight. So here we go. Next one here. And when I was looking at, I did a little bit of just a little Google search about this stuff before coming on here. And it seemed like most of the videos out there were focusing on handling the airplane. So this is where I'm finally getting to actually handling the airplane. If you're just flying around, made a mistake, need my eraser. If you're just flying around normally, you don't forget that. It's easy peasy to hold an altitude, or just, you're just flying along, turning and making the plane where you want to go in the air. That's the easy part of flying. But and taking off, and no one really forgets to take off. Once you give it full power, plane wants to go up on its own anyways. So number 2, landings. Okay, so this is where your landings have to be good if someone's going to check you out in the plane, because that's where there's statistically, I haven't seen the official numbers on that, but usually airplanes, they have the ground is involved with most accidents. So if you can get it on the ground safely, that's a good way to do it. And what a lot of people forget, we're just gonna okay, let's see if I can write this down here. Okay, and one thing to not forget is your crosswind inputs. Okay, so when you get on the ground, the wind's coming from the left, ailerons go into the wind there. So that's something that people, unless you've flown a tail dragger, a lot of people don't ever remember that. And it's a good habit to get into whenever you're doing any landing. If there's any amount of crosswind at all, just get in the habit of, the windsock says it's coming a bit from the left. Once I'm on the ground, I'll put the ailerons into it. Or it's coming from the right. Okay, everything's cool. Oh yeah, ailerons, put that in there. And if you get in the habit of doing that every time you land, even if it's a little useless, just 5 knots doesn't matter at all. But if you get in the habit of looking at the windsock and always putting the aileron in, then when it's really windy and you really need it at that point, then it's, I'm on the ground, boom, ailerons in. So that's a good habit to get into. And if you are rusty with your landings, that will take a while. If you haven't flown in a few years, chances are the instructor is going to have to take control, unless you remembered it. But a lot of it's very natural for even a very seasoned high time pilot to have the instructor has to take control, because they kind of forget, what am I supposed to do, and it has to be a little quicker. Like I've had to take control from airline pilots with way more experience than me, but not on the little airplane. They were rusty. So that's just the way it goes. Okay, now this one here is, I made this one number 1. Okay, number 1, it has to do with IFR flying, instrument flight rules. So for the non-pilots out there, that means that you can fly around with no reference to the ground. You're in the middle of a cloud, or it's a really dark night, you can't see anything, so you're looking at your instrument. You're flying by the rules of the air for flying on your instruments. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, and it doesn't turn out very well for them. So here we go. So we'll say number 1, do you remember, if you're flying IFR, all your avionics? No, so maybe you were flying in the old days where, I had this NDB and the arrow points to the airport and I just go there. That was the original IFR, was just non-directional beacon. It's like there's a little, basically like a AM radio station on a certain frequency. You tune it in. There's a little gauge there, and the needle will point to the station, and then you turn over to it and keep the needle at the top. You'll go right to the station, or which is usually at the airport. But that's old school. So now we got all kinds of different things here. Everybody flying around nowadays with IFR, they always have a GPS. Yeah. Okay. And the GPS will usually hook up to an autopilot. So there's another system that is complicated, and you'll have to, reacquaint yourself with that. And I would say, even if you just got a check ride to pass your instrument rating, I would do a few practice flights in good weather before you just take it down to minimums. That's how a lot of guys with more money than flying ability kill themselves, and you don't want that. So, and another one just to reacquaint yourself with is over here. VOR. Do you remember how to use a VOR? How to tune in? What's that VOR thingamajiggy? You might need that if your GPS fails, or you just whip out your cell phone and Google tells you where to go. That's probably a better way. And if you ever get all messed up and you are rusty on that, but you still want to look like a hero, you just tell the air traffic controllers unable request vectors, and they'll just tell you where to fly. So, anyways, even the pros do that. So, okay. That was that for the tips. Oh, and then we'll review our tips here. Okay, number 5 is you're getting back into the plane. Your engine failure, forced approach procedures. That could be for any complicated thing. Or even if like you're setting up your tent when you go camping. When was the last time you set up your tent? Do you remember how all those poles go and stuff like that? Are you going to be able to do that in the middle of the night when you show up late? Might want to set up your tent before you go camping. Okay, and then in your backyard. Okay, radio work, and then following checklist. Okay, landings. Don't beat yourself up if you don't have perfect grease or landings. And your IFR avionics. Be really careful if you're doing any IFR stuff and you haven't done it in a while. So the way that you can kind of get up to date on all this stuff is, of course, go flying with an instructor. But before you even get out to the airport, just ideally you could talk to the flight school or the instructor or whoever you're flying with and say, okay, what exactly are we going to do here? And then once you get yourself a little shopping list of things to remind yourself of, go and just kind of chair fly it. Sit in a chair just like this, pretend you're in the seat, and I'm taking off. What do I do? Okay, I give it full power. Where's my airspeed? Oh, that was a weird old airplane. The airspeed's here, but on my old airplane, the airspeed was over here. So where am I going to look? What am I going to do? Do I have a rotation speed that I have to take off at? So, and you kind of think about the whole flight and everything that you're supposed to do that you got on your little shopping list from the instructor. And then if you can think about that, and maybe you have a copy of the POH with you. This is getting pretty piloty, but hey, it's a super pilotish channel. So if the more that you can prepare before you show up, the better. And even if you can, you might even have some questions to ask right at the beginning. And any good instructor, before you go flying, they'll say their little spiel and they'll say, any questions? And you'll whip out your list and you'll say, yes, as a matter of fact, I don't know about this. And then you can have a good flight before you go. The more you prepare before you go flying, less it's going to cost you in the long run. So that's a good thing. Okay. So that's about it for that. And let's see what Greg had a big long question or something here. Greg was telling a joke over here in the chat. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to check it out. And my neighbor Travis, apparently Transways, his band is playing at the Chelsea April 8th, and they're on at 9. Good. I'll have to go down there and check it out. Thanks for letting me know, Travis. Okay, the Chelsea. I'm trying to think where that is. I don't go to the bars all that much, and actually, yeah, okay, I know where that is. Yeah, that's cool. I might make that. Okay, I got to put that on my calendar. So there we go. Transways playing at the Chelsea on April 8th at 9 p.m. Cool. Then maybe I'll see you there, and I'll give you back your all your wire strippers that you gave me the other day. You can put it in the case of your base there. Bring it back home. So, anyways, yeah. Oh, you need them, Travis? Okay, you know where they are. So, yeah, that's about it for today. And today is Friday, so pizza day for me, and hopefully the delivery guy doesn't get too rained on. We're supposed to get some really nasty weather here tonight. Big looks like there's a big low pressure system kind of coming towards here, but it should be nice tomorrow. You don't care about my weather. I barely do. So, anyways, yeah. So pizza night tonight, and so I will be back here on Monday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, and yeah, we'll just kind of shut her down. And cool. Everybody have a good weekend, and thank you for watching. Bye.